Hey everybody, this is Zach here, and I just wanted to offer this video to you as a sort of supplement to the materials that we're going to be going through this week as it relates to relationships and mutuality. And we've talked about mutuality as this sort of posture, this way of being that's necessary for community development. And the problem with mutuality is that it's really hard, right? Mutuality is costly. It's really hard to be in the raw, vulnerable places in our own lives and in the lives of our neighbors. And so what I want to talk about just briefly with you in this video is just some thoughts around expanding our comfort with discomfort, developing a sort of tolerance for the discomfort and the vulnerability that we are kind of signing up for, and when we're thinking about engaging in this sort of mutuality in our neighbors' lives. And so two things that I found to be extremely helpful, particularly through my time as a hospital chaplain in New York, are the tools of self-awareness and self-reflection. And they sound really simple, and they're very easy to say, but they're actually quite difficult to integrate and to embody and practice. And so what I mean by self-awareness is just right now in the moment knowing, what am I feeling and why am I feeling that way? And self-reflection is being able to look back after an experience and say, what was I feeling then and what contributed to that? And during the chaplaincy training that I underwent, there's a process every week that you go through called a verbatim, and it's basically an in-depth case study that where you write down a lot of different things about a patient interaction, but one of them is a transcript of the conversation. And you have line by line, what did I say? What did they say? And you go as long as you need to. And then there are two columns alongside that ask, what were you feeling and what were they feeling? And the process of this, the verbatim ends up being 10 or 15 pages long, but that is one of the hardest parts of that process, because what it's doing is it's stretching a muscle of emotional self-reflection. It's being able to look back and say, okay, at that specific moment, what was going on for me? I noticed that the conversation started to go this way instead of going this way, or it was starting to go to a place of depth and I retreated. And that I could see that now. And so what was that about, right? And so over time, this sort of reflection starts to become a lifetime awareness, because you're in a praxis of action and reflection constantly. And so because of that, and because the presence, the kind of pastoral competence that we're developing through that process is expanding our awareness of ourselves, and therefore our tolerance with the vulnerabilities and the discomforts that we experience as we open up ourselves to the raw and vulnerable places in other people's lives. Because the depth that we're able to go to with ourselves sort of conditions the depth that we're able to go to with others. If I'm only able to go right here with myself, with my own story, my own past, my own reflection, emotional processes, spiritual questions, things like this, but my neighbor needs me to go down here, I can't just bridge that because I really like mutuality. I can't just go to that place because I agree that it's important to, or that it's necessary to. There has to be a process in our praxis that kind of helps us to scaffold down to those places. And it seems kind of paradoxical to be, if we want to be helpful and available for ways that our neighbors need us to, that we have to focus on ourselves. But that's what I've experienced to be the case, and that's why chaplaincy training that's what chaplaincy training really is in a lot of ways. And so I just wanted to offer that to you as something to be thinking about as we're going through the materials this week. And I really do, it's been my experience that this sort of embodiment, this sort of reflection that we're talking about is in a lot of ways along the thinking, I think, that Paul is talking about in Philippians 2 with the Christ hymn, when he talks about Jesus emptying out himself and putting on and entering into the condition of humanity, right? And it takes for us, I think, this awareness of our own self so that we can not remove it as though it doesn't exist, but so that we can just be attuned to ourselves as we descend into another person's world and their experience. We can be the fullness of who we are. We can be emotionally attuned to ourselves as we're engaging in these kinds of places. And so, yeah, I just hope that this can be helpful for you. I just want to encourage you to be thinking about this as you're going through the materials this week, as you're reflecting on your own context. Just invite you to reflect on yourself, your own processes, your own emotional comforts and your discomforts, and just your own experience with being uncomfortable based on what somebody else is going through and what they're sharing. And also just be thinking too about your communities and saying, is my group, is my my staff, my family, my organization, my ministry, whatever it might be, is this an environment that has in part of its processes a place to reflect and a place to expand our awareness of what's going on, and how we are responding to something. And I think that you'll find that there's a lot of fruit in doing that. So just pray blessings over you all, and take care.